Before. Thank you, everybody, showing up. I appreciate everyone being here at our first venture out on something like this. And we're going to get into a little bit more tonight of why it's important. But Refuge, we're going through a transition here of not necessarily who we are, but how we do things. And part of how we are going to continue to do things and continue to be like Jesus in the community is working towards advocacy, working towards things related to social justice and making sure that we are a safe place for all people, where all people are valued, all people are seen, and all people can be who they are. And so I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that later with Femi, but I would like to introduce our special guest speaker tonight, Shari, right? Sorry, I've been telling everybody Shari. I'm so sorry. Shari Armstrong. She's an anchor at Fox 4, and she's just gonna come and share a little bit about her story. And it's important, and I've mentioned this in some of my sermons, is that it's easy to get tunnel vision on your own experience. It's easy for me to talk about my experience and the things that I've been through and be stuck in that. And for us to become advocates and continue to grow, we need to learn and hear the experiences of other people, things that we might not think are an issue, things that we might not think are going on, but hearing from people who we know, who we love, who we respect, and learning from their experience. So that's part of what we're doing here tonight. So I'm going to give the floor to Shari, and thank you for being here. So give it up for Shari, and we'll be right back.
Hi. So I obviously work in TV. I talk on the whim all the time. But I told Nicole, this is probably the first time I've been invited to speak to a group of people about this topic. And the audience wasn't necessarily a group of young Black children or a diverse group of adults from the community. So first, I want to commend y'all for this event, for this service, and also for showing up. So we're going to start by clapping for you guys, because I think that's fire. And you made me nervous. So I got to awkwardly lean on this table and stuff. So I am Shari Armstrong. I have worked at Fox 4 for the last going on 8 years now, and it has been the greatest honor of my life because I am anchoring in my community. I went to school here in Southwest Florida. I'm going to say some things about my school. I prayed about them. I need to share them, so I'm not going to say the name, but you could just Google it and link in my bio. It's right down the street from here. And I do need to preface that by saying I loved my school. I am, in recent times, the first Black anchor that Southwest Florida has had. There was one in the very early 90s. I hear she was around for a couple of years. But I am the first Black anchor that most people know in the Southwest Florida community. That's something I wear with a lot of pride. And yeah, you could clap for that. Thank you. Especially growing up in a time where I knew I wanted to be on TV. If you go into that certain school's yearbook, you're going to see back in 2000 that I said in the yearbook that I want to go to Boston University, and my goal was to be on NBC, the Today Show. I love the Today Show. I still watch it. That was my goal. But I remember growing up here and seeing no one who looked like me on TV, so I always had a backup plan. I was going to go into theater just in case, because I wasn't necessarily sure how realistic this dream that I had was for me. And I want to tell you a little bit about that. So growing up at this private school that I went to here in Fort Myers, I was the only student that looked like me all the way through my graduating class. When I was in 8th grade, that's when I discovered I was Black. It was true breaking news. We were sitting around the table, a bunch of students and I've always been that girl, right? I've always been super popular. People have always liked me. I talk to everybody. I don't have any bullying stories of my own. I have stories of standing up for people who were bullied, but none of my own because people embraced me. The school, the parents, the staff, everyone embraced me. But that doesn't mean we have the same perspectives or see each other the same way, right? So we were sitting at the table. I specifically remember this moment. The hot dogs came out that day. We were having hot dogs. And this guy that was sitting at the table said, can I direct quote a curse word in here? I'm just going to say D-A-M-N. Dang, it's the edited version. This hot dog is as dark as a nigger. And that was the first time. Now, here's the thing. I grew up in a very, I don't even know if it's appropriate to say it anymore, but I'm going to say it like a very woke community and family. My family's from the islands. And so I had all the, yeah, okay, island love, Barbados in the house. Where are you from? Where are you from? Okay, girl. So my family always made sure I knew all the things. Dr. King, Harriet Tubman at Quality Life Center. I grew up over there. If you're familiar with that organization, I learned how to swim there. I learned how to dance there. I've been doing African dance since I was 5 years old. But nothing prepared me for this moment because the word did not directly shock me in that moment. It was the reaction from all the kids sitting at the table. Everybody froze because they knew in that moment that should not have happened. And from there, that's when I realized I was black. Everyone's freaking out because this awkward situation is actually about me. So nothing really happened to that kid, which probably doesn't surprise you. And I remember not making that big of a deal about it. All the other kids went and told the teachers, and I was like, he shouldn't have said it. It is what it is. Whatever. We keep it pushing. I've always been that kind of person. Then I was in my 10th grade class at school, and my geometry teacher, who I still love, I need to publicly say that, drew two triangles two triangles that were, the tips were pointing at each other. So he drew the two triangles on the board, and then he looks at the class and he says, "What do you guys see?" And there was a big circle that he drew underneath, and no one knew what he was talking about. So he asked again, everyone look closely. What do you see? And I want you guys to imagine this. Two triangles, their heads, the tip of the triangles are pointing at each other like this, and there's a circle underneath. He then drew two dots in each triangle. And he said, our lesson today is about perspective, and this is the perspective of a black man after being thrown into a pit by the KKK. See how silent it is in here right now? It was the same silence in the classroom. And for the first time in my life, I crumbled at my blackness, right? Because not only was it a moment where everyone felt like it was awkward, everyone's staring at me, everyone's feeling sorry for me. I don't know what I'm feeling because I know I should be feeling maybe like I need to stand up and call him out, but I just don't have that in me yet. It's not there yet, but I know it's wrong and I should be ashamed. That ended up getting back to my mother, and the whole Armstrong group came to that school the next day. And that is when we actually started having sensitivity training at that school, and they've been having sensitivity training since then. Those are the moments when I realized my blackness, and I need to tell you guys that I was saved when I was in 4th grade. From that moment on, I wondered about being black and being a Christian, and how the two actually align and work together. And I gotta be honest with you, I'm wearing these earrings accidentally today. I don't know if you could see them, but they got fist. They say black, proud, and something else. I don't remember. I wear these when I'm not working, and I pulled up today. I was like, oh, snap. I cannot be wearing these earrings. And this is a true story. I was in my backpack under the seat in my car looking for an extra pair of earrings because I'm an anchor and I always got earrings, right? And I couldn't find any. And I was like, you know what? This is God challenging me to tell the truth, my truth. And my truth is that I have always struggled with my blackness and my Christianity growing up in this school where I primarily learned what Christianity was, what it meant to me, my faith, all of that. When I went to college, I had a great experience. I graduated from the University of South Florida, go Bulls, got my degree, and I ended up in a few places, New York, Los Angeles. While I was in Atlanta, while I was in Los Angeles, I was recruited to come back here and tell the stories of my community. That's been my greatest honor, as I said. But I still struggled with that line between blackness and Christianity. And I want to tell you about the moment that changed for me. It just happened like 2 years ago, so let me work through the emotions of it a little bit. The funny thing about being the first black anchor in recent times is when people know that, they are very kind to you, they're overwhelmingly loving, but sometimes you still find yourself in situations where people don't know, right? There are still times where I'm reminded in Southwest Florida that I am an outsider. Sometimes people will say things like, oh, you work for Fox 4, are you a photographer? No, my guy, 7 years on air, get it right, you know what I mean? But there are always moments, my boyfriend is white, there are moments where we walk into restaurants or certain places and people still look at us like this is the 1960s. Please believe that some of those underlying tones are still there. I was on the desk and we keep our laptops up. This is something I have shared with very little people, so I'm gonna try my best to get it out. I'm on the desk. I'm looking real cute that day, Nicole, okay? Like, you can't tell me nothing. P.S., I just started wearing my hair like this naturally on air just about 6 months ago. I have been known, and most people know me for wearing, like, box braids on air. That was something I had to ask for permission for, by the way. I started with relaxed hair because I thought this is what anchors look like, the cute bob, until that thing started breaking and breaking and breaking, and I had, like, no hair, and I had to do something else. So I started wearing box braids, asked for permission, got the okay with that, and I recently decided that I was gonna wear natural hair on air, but I needed to tell you that in order to get to this. So I was on air, we're having a great newscast, it's the top of the 6 o'clock. And we always get those wonderful emails from viewers with our names on them. A lot of the times, viewers say really nice things. So the title might say Shari Armstrong, and in the body it'll say, I love watching you, I watch you every night. Where'd you get those shoes from? Are you pregnant, right? Like, that's just the whole gamut of the emails that we get. They really test your self-esteem. So this email came in and I knew I was looking cute. So I was like, this is definitely somebody trying to tell me how nice I look tonight and they like my earrings. So I open it up and the email, had my name on it in the title, and then in the body, it said, why does Fox keep putting these effing fill in the blanks on air? It went on to say, I hate Shari Armstrong. It went on to say all of these very derogatory things about me, and proceeded to call me the N-word while I'm on air. And I'm in the middle. The thing that we shouldn't do is the thing I was doing is I'm reading over video. So you can hear my voice, you can see the video, but you can't actually see me. And when the video came off and we were back on cam, I froze and my eyes were full of tears because it's a reminder that you work so hard to deliver the news, do the things every day, but there are still people on the other side who will see you as nothing else but that. My management immediately came in. They pulled me off the set because it was an ugly scene. The eyelashes had cried off of my face. The mascara was all over my face. And I was a mess because I just couldn't believe that for all this work that I do and all the things that I do, someone would still see me as that. But why couldn't I believe that in 2024, right? Why couldn't I just accept that, like, yeah, there's still gonna be people that do not like you? I couldn't stop crying, and I kept questioning and asking myself, what is the problem? Not everybody's gonna like you. You're grown enough to know that. But I kept crying and crying and crying. And in that moment, I remember God challenging me with those words, which is your blackness and Christianity, the thing that I've struggled with the most, your blackness and faith. They go together. You can be both. And in this moment, you get to show whomever that you are that. Now, don't get me wrong. That happened at 6:05. Your girl didn't get back on there till 6:50, okay? I had to get it together. We put loads of foundation and concealer on my face because I looked a hot mess. But I had to get back up there. And when they pulled the cameras up, I mean, I can't tell you the number of texts and calls that I got, people asking me, like, what was wrong, if I was okay. My eyes were bloodshot. But I got back on there, and we, of course, at the end of the show, you know, we have those fun, smiling stories, and I smiled through the newscast because I was not going to let that person take this away from me, this thing that I've worked so hard to be. I wasn't going to let them take that away from me, and I wasn't going to let them take the thing that I found in 4th grade away from me either, which is the joy of the Lord. Y'all hear me? So I was like, I'm going to get back on the desk and get this out. From that moment, I've been unapologetically black. Okay, I just have to tell y'all. There are still moments where I question myself. I got my earrings, like I told you, that's the real story. There are things that I wonder if I should comment on. Even Juneteenth, a couple years ago, you wouldn't catch me posting about it. Now, I hope you saw my post because I did look really cute again. And I made sure to quote my favorite quote, which is by Maya Angelou. In her poem, Still I Rise, she says, bringing the dreams that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. And when I'm down, when I'm at my lowest, when I'm questioning whether I should show up to certain things, I remember that there is a whole legacy, and they are a legacy of people who could only dream of the life that I have now. The things that I cry about like an email is like, please, the things that these people went through doesn't even compare. These are the things that people suffered for me. My grandfather, who is literally dying in hospice care right now, was one of the first financial planners in Lehigh Acres. So imagine the wrath that came with that, right? Coming in saying, let me talk about your money, and you're like this short of a black guy talking about, let me talk to you about your money. Give me all your money, you can trust me with it. But those people paved a way for me. So at the end of the day, I know now more than ever that my faith goes hand in hand with my blackness. In fact, this is how God made me. He made me and brought me to this place in life to touch people's lives, to share stories, and to let them know that I am the dream manifested. I am the gift. God made me to come to people like you, to be in a platform or on a platform where people might be challenged just by seeing me and still sharing faith and love through that platform, even when it's hardest. So I feel like I spoke for over 10 minutes and I'm super sorry, but y'all got me pumped. So thank you for listening to me. I don't know if I should ask questions or do you have any questions? I just wanted to thank you guys for listening to me. Do you have any questions about any of that? Lovely. It's a lot. I do have to tell you one more thing. These rooms matter. Having these discussions, having this open opportunity matters. And when I say thank you for showing up, I mean it. Because how am I supposed to get to know you? How are you supposed to get to know me if we can't have a conversation? If we just can't hear each other out? I posted a story yesterday. It was a story that I did with a local drag queen. Wow, the comment section is blowing up, right? And not with we love this, but it's okay. It's okay because you know what? It generates conversation. At least I got y'all talking about it and paying attention. So thank you guys so much for having me, for listening to me. I appreciate you, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you so much, Shari. I will say I got beef because I'm the funny one, and you were making them laugh a little too hard. So tonight, we are. I thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And so, yes, we're sharing about Juneteenth tonight. We're celebrating that, and it is important. Does anybody, since it's June 22nd, June 19th has already passed, what is Juneteenth? I'll tell you, don't worry. So Juneteenth is the celebration of when enslaved Africans in Galveston, Texas, were told of their freedom. And it's important because it happened 2 years 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. And it's important to recognize that because there were systemic issues. There were people in power keeping that information getting to the people who needed that information. They were keeping freedom from people who were supposed to be free. They were keeping that from getting out because they wanted the power. They wanted the control. And it's important to recognize that because those intentions, things like that, are still at work. And that's why it's important to have these conversations. That's why it's important to have the conversation we're going to have tonight with one of our own, Femi, because there are still people in power who want control. There are still people in power who have issues with the color of their skin. They have issues with who they are. They have issues with the way they wear their hair on TV. And those are the things that Refuge wants to take a stand against. Those are the things that Refuge wants to aid in working against, is making sure that there is equality, there is justice, there is love, there is mercy, and being Jesus in a community. And so tonight we're going to talk to Femi. I don't know, she's a little introverted, so this might not, we might get out of here on time. I don't know, but I do want, before we get started, you're going to come sit right here with me. Yeah, right on. But I want to say thank you to Femi because she is the one, it was a conversation we had at a little outreach meeting where she kind of like broke the glass for me. I was very much focused on, LGBTQ equality. I was very focused on my story, my experience, living in my bubble. And then when she said Black people aren't represented at Refuge, it was like for me and like, I know this is going to sound like it shouldn't be, but my whole Barbie series was based off of my conversation with Femi and wanting to move to a place to where we can become a safe place for people of color. I know Barbie is not the best avenue. There's not the best avenue for Black representation. But, we're white people. We're sensitive. We got to take it slow. So, so tonight, this is Femi. Femi, this is everybody. And so in moving towards being a safe place for all people, a safe place for people of color, that's why these conversations are important. That's what Shari was saying, is that we got to have these conversations. We got to be a little bit uncomfortable with uncomfortable truths, because it is an uncomfortable truth that racism still exists. All right? I'm going to say it a few times tonight. Racism still exists. I have walked into stores with family, and with my sister-in-law, I've walked into stores with Black friends, and I just go about my business shopping, and honestly, I'm probably the one stealing, but they got eyes locked. Not just kidding. Oh, I was just kidding. I've never stolen a thing in my life. Just kidding. Anyways, moving on. The Lord forgives. He redeems. But I walk into a store with them, and I'm forgotten about, and eyes are locked in on my Black friends and my sister-in-law, and it's just, it's things that happen, if we've all done it. We're all guilty of locking our door when a Black person walks in the crosswalk, and just having these conversations and learning and growing and moving away from stuff like that. And so this is Femi. We've already introduced you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey to Refuge, how you found us, and why you love us?
So I'm Femi. I moved to Southwest Florida in 2008. It was a little bit of a whim. I was just supposed to be on vacation, and I decided to stay. And it was in 2008 that I realized that I was Black, like blackity black, black, black.
So explain that for white people. What does that mean?
So I grew up in Belize, which is in Central America. We're the only English-speaking country in Central America. We also have the second largest barrier reef in the world. I just put that out there. But Belize is very diverse, okay? Any of you guys can go to Belize and live your most happiest, healthiest life. That being said, I had to check a box to apply for school here. And they ask you what race you are. So I don't know. I just keep putting other on my applications, because in Belize, they don't ask you your race. You're either Belizean or you're not. Now, they ask you your ethnicity, and then you can say, I'm Afro-Caribbean, I'm Mestizo, I'm Maya, whatever that box is. Was the first time that I have had to check that box. And in 2008, while walking from my grand aunt's house to the store, a guy in a pickup truck, as I was walking, he called me the N-word. I lost my mind. I took off both shoes and proceeded to throw them at his windshield, which my great aunt ended up telling me wasn't the smartest thing I did in Southwest Florida. But that's a little bit of when I first got here. How I stumbled across Refuge is my husband and I are about to try to start a family soon. And in that process, I don't know what I'm gonna get. I don't know what child I'm gonna end up having. I don't know what their struggle is going to be. So we wanted to find a church that we can go to where no matter what our child is, if they're gay, if they're straight, if they're black, if they're white, they fit in and they still are able to have a relationship with Jesus. So we just basically Googled gay churches. And we ended up coming here and everyone was so nice and that's how we stayed.
They are starting their family through adoption. So when she says if they're white, it's because they're adopting a white baby, not because... Sorry, I don't... We'll keep moving forward. So Juneteenth, does that have a significant, does that mean, play significant in your life and your journey? Does it, the day, the celebration, does it mean something to you and your family, or?
It did not. And the reason is, so I come from a Caribbean mom, and my dad is African American and Native. I grew up with my mom. So on my mom's side, we're very just, everyone is the same and blah, blah, blah. On my dad's side, they're very like, So my cousins would celebrate Juneteenth. I never really participated. I didn't want to celebrate Juneteenth, honestly, until this year. When we had our conversation at one of our Wednesday sessions about just the diversity here, it's because of that week. So I came here on the Wednesday, the Friday, the Monday. I had 3 separate incidents of people at my job asking to touch my hair. And in that moment, I felt as if though I was an enslaved person behind bars, like a circus animal, where people just want to touch and see if it's real. And that's when it really sank into me that I need to just live in my blackness. Mm-hmm. And this is honestly the first Juneteenth that I'm celebrating, so this is new for all of us. And I've been black all my life.
So how has being black all your life affected your faith? I know Shari kind of talked about how her blackness and faith kind of were working together all along. How is that? How have you noticed there be like a commingling, or has it affected your faith?
It's affected my faith in...
I shouldn't say affected, because that sounds like, oh, your blackness has ruined your faith. But just how have you noticed there's been like an intersection of your race and your this color of your skin, and then growing up in...
So I'm someone who thrives on audio, like sounds. Sounds have can make me feel either which way. And I think that my blackness strengthened my Christianity in what black churches feel like and what black hymns feel like. That's how they kind of commingled. When it comes to my actual Christianity, I'm still struggling. I'm not going to ignore the fact that enslaved Africans learned religion as a means to instill fear. And Black Christians are very much colonized in that aspect of their religion. So I'm still struggling finding a place of where me and my people started and where we kind of fit in.
So with you bringing that up, talk about colonization, I want to have the conversation about racism, and we're gonna talk about it. It exists. It still does exist, and it's easy for me as a white person to sit here and say racism doesn't exist because I don't experience racism. I don't. Like I said, I don't walk into a store and get watched to make sure I'm not stealing things. I don't experience racism, but racism still very much exists. We've heard two firsthand accounts of racism at work. Being called the N-word is racism at its, and I'm not going to say finest, but just the very definition of racism. But what has been your experience with that? So how long have you been in the States?
Since 2008.
Okay, and so since then, what's been your experience in the States?
It's been rough. It's been rough. People like Shari and myself, we know what it means to code switch, okay? When I'm outside, I can be the blackest that I want to be. So I don't have to speak properly. I don't have to wear my hair a certain way. I don't have to behave a certain way. But when we step into the workplace or we step into an environment that's predominantly Caucasian, we dim down our blackness. At that moment when I had the incident with my hair was when I decided that I'm no longer dimming my blackness to make white people comfortable. You just have to be comfortable. This is me. And the reason why I say that, and I finally realized that it's okay for me to say that, is because none of you have had to do that. You act the same way that you are at work, in church, at home, basically the same, minus being more professional. For us, for me, I used to work at the state attorney's office. I worked there for a very long time, and I was supervising 3 of our specialty units, economic crime, sexually violent predator, and our homicide unit. And I cannot tell you the amount of time where when I'm dealing with someone who's just a civilian, them wanting to speak to someone higher than me. Well, this is it. I've had where I show up to different places and I say my name and they say, whoa, we didn't expect you because, Femi isn't a common name. You don't know what you're gonna get. And the burden of being the representation of your race every single day is tiring. When I'm here, I honestly try my best to act right because I know that the interaction that you have with me is, for a lot of you, one of the few interactions you're gonna have with someone that's African American. So I represent my entire race. Can you guys only imagine how tiring and exhausting that may be for a person? So that's pretty much it, yeah.
So we're a room full of white people, mostly, wanting, and I'm going to speak for everybody, us wanting to be allies and work with the Black community and work towards social justice and equality. What are some things that you believe or think allies could do or could be doing to help support people of color and help move towards, allowing you to be who you are? Like that's one thing that I have, and until you just said it, not knowing that that's something that you still don't get to experience in your church. Like I want you to be fully who you are. So as your church community and your family, and just as white people trying to learn, what should we know in moving forward to be better allies?
I think there's 3 things. The first thing is that racism is real, okay? It's not just the experiences that we have. Racism is still systemic, okay? And I know this because I also work in the criminal justice system. It's not a coincidence that more Black people are being arrested, more Black people are being executed than any other race. In this, Nicole mentioned that my husband and I are looking to adopt, and we have had to come to the realization that we won't be on the top of people's list because I'm African American and he's Hispanic. And if we plan on adopting, even my own people see Caucasian parents as a savior. So instead of putting their child that looks like me with me, they rather it go to someone that's white. So racism is still real, still exists, which is a reason also why financially a lot of black people aren't necessarily where they're supposed to be. You and I can go for the same loan. We have the same credit score. You're gonna get the loan, I will not. So that's one misconception. The second misconception is don't say that you don't see color. That's the worst. Don't say that you don't see color. Because when I walk into this room, I want you to see my blackness. I want you to not be mistaken that I am unapologetically black. And what I mean by that is your ability to see that our struggles aren't the same. Your ability to see that where I am isn't necessarily a reflection of my hard work or a reflection of me not wanting to work. It's because I am in a country that was founded for the benefit of white men, not even white women. America was founded to make white men comfortable. And in that comes a lot of trials and tribulations. The third thing that I would want everyone to remember is every black person that you see is strength. I am living, and I'm not supposed to be living. I'm not supposed to be here. We are a race that should have died when we became free, but we survived, and that's the problem.
And then I want to ask you one more question. What can Refuge do better? What can your church do better to not just welcome you, but be a safe place for the whole black, I don't want to say, well, I do want to say the whole black community, but what can we do better as a church moving forward? How can we truly be a safe place for all people to be unapologetic? That's a hard word to say. How did you say that so easy? Like, it's just not saying sorry for being who they are. How can Refuge do better?
I will say this. I've never felt more loved and showered on than I have at Refuge. It doesn't feel fake, if that makes sense. I feel like everyone that has spoken to me from the time we started up until today is because they genuinely want to know, they genuinely want to have a conversation. So it's not a question of does Refuge have enough love and compassion to give? That's not the question. I think in order to touch black communities is, well, recognizing that we're black. Another thing is our music. Us singing from the soul has a different, it just hits different. I think that's one thing. And the other thing is, I feel like in trying to combat racism, white people feel guilty. They feel like they have to fix something, and that's not the case. The little conversations that we're having here, that's what makes a difference. The way you guys make me feel, that's what makes a difference. Just continuing to show that we are indeed a safe place for all people. And it's hard. It's hard work. It's difficult for, I won't lie, it will be difficult for a black person to come in here and be like, oh, this is it. And that's only because of our experiences. And that has nothing to do with how you guys run your everyday life. It's just that the life that we've had to live, it's hard to shake. So I just feel like Refuge just needs to do exactly what it is doing. Continue to pour the love, continue to pour the compassion, realize that there is a difference, and you're not our savior. That died in 1865. We just want you to treat us like humans. We don't need saving. We don't need anyone to apologize. Just make our journey a little less exhausting.
All right. You hear that, white people? All right, I'm going to invite the band to come back up. Can everyone give a big thank you to Femi for doing that? As someone who's been put under the spotlight like that in an interview, I know that is not hard, and I don't think you're as introverted as you make yourself out to be, because she had a lot to say. And if I'm being honest with everybody in the room, because of the way that I grew up, because of the world we live in, some of the stuff she said, I had a knee-jerk reaction to be like, oh, I can't believe she's saying that. But that's exactly why we're having that conversation, to push past those moments where you're like, oh, should she be talking about, like, when you said the N-word, I was like, oh, no, you're fine. No, you're fine. Like, worse has been said in the pulpit from here. It's not that. It caught me off guard. It caught me, like, it did. And but having these conversations to push past those feelings and to not be uncomfortable and to see people's humanity, that is the goal of Refuge. That is what we're trying to move to, is to seeing all people for who they are, exactly as they are, so they can come in here and be 100% unapologetically themselves. So we're going to close with one more song. Would you please stand and worship with us tonight?